One crisp fall morning in 2023, I was out on my family's sprawling 12,000-acre ranch in Willow Creek, Idaho, watching a backhoe carve out the deep end of a new swimming pool. The air smelled of sagebrush and damp earth, and my cattle grazed lazily under the wide, endless sky. This land had been in the Harper family since 1910, tamed by my great-grandfather when Idaho was still wild. I was picturing my kids diving into that pool next summer, their laughter echoing across the valley, when a sleek black Audi roared up my gravel drive, spitting dust like an angry hornet. Out stepped a woman who looked like she'd been airlifted from a city law firm and dropped into my dusty corner of the world. Her sharp pixie cut gleamed under the sun, and she gripped her phone like it was a loaded pistol. Before I could even tip my hat, she stormed toward me, filming, her voice slicing through the quiet. "You need to halt this construction right now. This pool is a blatant violation of our community standards." I set my coffee mug on a fence post, keeping my tone steady despite the absurdity. "Morning, ma'am. I'm Cole Harper, and this is my ranch. Not sure what community you're talking about, but this is private land, owned by my family for over a century." She scoffed, her eyes narrowing like I was a kid who'd flunked civics. "I'm Vanessa Klein, president of the Silver Ridge Homeowners Association, and we have full authority to enforce aesthetic standards across this entire region. Your project is ruining the pristine beauty our residents pay top dollar for." I couldn't help but chuckle, not to be rude, but because it felt like I'd stumbled into a bad sitcom. "Ma'am, with respect, this ranch predates your HOA by decades. We're not under your jurisdiction." Vanessa wasn't fazed. She stepped closer to the dig site, angling her phone for what she probably thought was Oscar-worthy footage. "Jurisdiction? That's exactly the issue. The HOA governs this valley's standards, and this eyesore is unacceptable." She flailed her arm at the half-dug pool, which, to me, was just a hole waiting to hold family memories. Caught up in her tirade, she backed up, oblivious to the backhoe rumbling behind her. The operator, waving frantically, tried to warn her, but she was too busy preaching. "This is the kind of reckless behavior that tanks property values," she bellowed, just as the backhoe dumped a load of wet dirt. A muddy cascade splattered her from head to toe, turning her pristine blazer into a Jackson Pollock painting. Her jaw dropped, mud dripping from her hair, her phone screen a smeared mess. "You did that on purpose," she sputtered, wiping her face. I raised my hands. "Ma'am, nobody told you to dance behind heavy equipment. That's just common sense." The operator bit his lip to keep from laughing, and I'll admit, I was fighting a grin. There's a certain justice in watching someone trip over their own ego. Fury replaced her shock. Pointing a muddy finger, she hissed, "This isn't over. I'm calling the cops, and they'll shut you down." She stomped to her Audi, leaving a trail of soggy footprints, and yelled, "Expect officers to arrest you." I waved politely. "I'll be right here, ma'am. Drive safe." As her car vanished in a cloud of dust, I wondered how far this city slicker would push her crusade. She was about to find out she'd picked the wrong fight. 2 hours later, as I poured another coffee, my phone buzzed with a call that'd go down as the most ironic in county history. Vanessa had dialed 911, her voice quivering with righteous rage, reporting unauthorized construction and community safety threats. The dispatcher, cool as ever, promised an officer would investigate. What Vanessa didn't know, the deputy assigned was my own man, Ethan Cole, who'd been under my command for 5 years. When Ethan saw my address on the call sheet, he rang me, barely holding back laughter. "Boss, got a complaint about you. Some lady says you're running an illegal dig site." I grinned, sensing an opportunity. "Don't tell her I'm the sheriff, Ethan. Let's see how deep she digs. Just do your job, straight-faced." 20 minutes later, Ethan's patrol car crunched up the drive. He stepped out, uniform crisp, playing the part of a no-nonsense cop. "Afternoon, sir," he said loudly. "Got a report of construction issues here. Mind answering some questions?" I matched his tone, feigning a touch of worry. "Officer, I don't want trouble. Is something wrong with my pool?" Behind his stern look, Ethan's eyes twinkled. Then Vanessa reappeared, fresh from a wardrobe change, toting professional camera gear like she was filming a Netflix special. "Officer, thank God you're here," she declared, striding forward. "This man's been hostile, ignoring our regulations, endangering our community. Ethan nodded, pulling out a notepad. Ma'am, I'll need to review the evidence. Sir, got permits for this project. I handed over my folder, every document legit and county stamped. Right here, officer. All in order. Vanessa, eager for her gotcha moment, backed up to frame the crime scene, narrating her video. This is why we need strict standards, she proclaimed, not noticing the fresh pile of cow dung left by my herd. Her heels sank right into it, and down she went, her camera capturing the flop in glorious detail. Ethan turned away, coughing to hide his laughter, then offered her a hand. You okay, ma'am? After reviewing my permits, he delivered his verdict. Sir, your paperwork's solid. This is private land, no county violations. Vanessa's mouth fell open. That's impossible. What about community standards? Environmental damage. Ethan shook his head. Those are civil matters, ma'am, not police business. Undeterred, Vanessa played her trump card, manure still clinging to her skirt. Fine. I demand to speak to the sheriff. I couldn't resist a smirk. She was demanding to yell at me. Ma'am, I'd love to meet this sheriff myself. Sounds like a guy with answers. Ethan's lips twitched. I'll arrange for the sheriff to come out personally, ma'am. By dawn the next day, Vanessa had doubled down, launching an online Save Willow Creek campaign. Her manure fiasco video had racked up 1,500 views, mostly for laughs, not support. She printed 200 petitions, titled Stop Pool Destruction, and went door to door in the HOA subdivision, her intensity scaring half the neighbors. Some signed to get rid of her, others slammed doors. At 80-year-old Mrs. Clara's house, Vanessa got an earful. Young lady, the Harpers have been this valley's backbone since before your parents were born. If Cole wants a pool, that's his right. Vanessa pressed, but the property values. Clara cut her off. Honey, the Harpers own this whole valley. They've cared for it since 1910. They know what they're doing. Vanessa's face flickered with doubt, the first crack in her armor. They own the valley, she whispered, but Clara's door was already closing. At the local farmer's market, Vanessa's petition booth flopped hard. Locals, who'd fished in our creek or joined Harper barbecues, weren't buying her spiel. Kids ran up, shouting, "Hi, Uncle Cole," as Vanessa's forced smile cracked. Then a gust of wind sent her petitions flying like confetti, her tent collapsing in a heap. Kids chased the papers, giggling, as Vanessa scrambled in the dirt. For the first time, she looked like she might be rethinking her war. But Vanessa wasn't done. She spent days poring over online building codes, printing 50 pages of irrelevant regulations for city high-rises, not rural ranches. She crafted a cease and desist letter, brimming with legal jargon and threats, convinced she'd nailed me. When she returned to my ranch, her Audi loaded with folders, there was a desperate edge to her swagger. "I've got proof you're breaking the law," she announced, waving her papers. I set down my water bucket, genuinely curious about her effort. "That's serious, ma'am. Where'd you find this?" She launched into a lecture, citing codes that didn't apply, her confidence that of a first-year law student who'd skimmed Google. I skimmed her documents, shaking my head. "These are for commercial zones, ma'am. This is a private ranch in unincorporated county land." Her certainty wavered. "Laws are laws," she insisted, but her voice shook. As we talked, my horse, Maverick, wandered over, eyeing her papers. Before we could react, he chomped the folder, scattering her evidence across the dirt, some pages torn to bits. "No," Vanessa shrieked, wrestling with a 1,200-pound animal over her life's work. Defeated but defiant, she pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the sheriff's office directly." I smiled. "Great idea, Vanessa. I've been meaning to chat with the sheriff myself." She smirked, thinking she'd won. "Good. The sheriff will shut this down for good." The next morning, as I sipped coffee under a pink and gold sunrise, Vanessa was on the phone with my dispatcher, demanding the sheriff's immediate response to a crisis. The dispatcher promised a visit within 30 minutes. When the call reached me, I laughed at the perfect irony. Vanessa had spent days begging for the sheriff, and now she'd get himmy. I dusted off my sheriff's uniform, badge gleaming, and drove my patrol truck to my own ranch, feeling like I was starring in a Coen Brothers flick. Vanessa had turned the site into a stage, cameras rolling. A dozen HOA neighbors gathered to watch my supposed arrest. She stood in a power suit, clutching fresh documents, ready to claim victory. When I stepped out of the truck, sheriff's star shining, the crowd gasped. Vanessa's face froze, her folders slipping from her hands, her cameras catching her shock in 4K. "Good afternoon, folks," I said, tipping my hat. "I'm Sheriff Cole Harper. I hear someone needs to discuss a law enforcement matter." Silence gripped the scene. Vanessa gaped, speechless, as neighbors whispered, piecing it together. You can't be," she stammered. I nodded. "Sheriff Harper, 8 years running, deputy for 6 before that. Now, what crime are we investigating?" Her brain seemed to stall. "This is a conflict of interest. You can't investigate yourself." I pulled out my notepad. "Fair point, ma'am. So what law have I broken? Be specific." She floundered, muttering about building violations and community standards. I spread my permits on the truck hood, alongside a county map. "These are valid permits for private land. The HOA's boundary ends a half-mile away. They've got no say here." Neighbors crowded around, nodding as the truth sank in. One woman piped up, "So the HOA can't control anything outside their subdivision?" I shook my head. "Exactly. HOAs govern their own properties, not my ranch." Then a man dropped a bombshell. "Vanessa, didn't you know some of our homes are on leased Harper land?" Vanessa paled. "That's impossible." I confirmed it. "My dad leased parcels to the developer 20 years ago. A third of your subdivision sits on Harper land." The crowd murmured, stunned. Vanessa had been bossing her own landlord. Her last stand was a desperate phone grab. "I'm calling the state police. This is corruption." Laughter rippled through the crowd. I stayed calm. "Go ahead, ma'am. But no laws are broken here. I'm just building a pool with permits." An HOA board member spoke up. "Vanessa, we need to talk about your leadership. You've misled us." Heads nodded, and Vanessa's reign crumbled. Her cameras, meant to capture triumph, broadcast her downfall to her online followers. Within 48 hours, the HOA board ousted Vanessa 7-0, citing her lies and vendetta. A kind neighbor, Mrs. Lee, took over, vowing to rebuild trust. Vanessa's state police complaint went nowhere. A trooper explained sheriffs run their counties, and my pool was legal. She was told to take it to civil court, but her fight was done. Neighbors apologized for signing her petition, admitting they'd been bullied. I waved it off. Small towns get messy, but we sorted out. Mrs. Lee suggested a community barbecue to celebrate the pool's completion, and I loved the idea. 2 weeks later, the pool sparkled under the Idaho sun, surrounded by perfect landscaping. The barbecue drew hundreds of HOA folks, ranchers, locals bringing potluck dishes and lawn chairs. Kids played, adults swapped stories, and the valley felt whole again. I announced Ethan's promotion to senior deputy, earning cheers. When someone asked about Vanessa, Mrs. Lee said she'd moved to a better fit elsewhere, her house already for sale. The pool's grand opening saw kids cannonballing in, splashing everyone, laughter sealing the day. 3 months later, I was by the pool at dawn, coffee in hand, when Ethan drove up. "Got a complaint, boss." I groaned, bracing for drama. He grinned. "Mrs. Clara says you swim too quietly. Her grandkids want louder splashes when they visit." I laughed, stood, and cannonballed into the pool, sending a tidal wave across the deck. Being sheriff means serving in weird ways, but that was one complaint I loved fixing. Now, what do you think? Was Vanessa a misguided crusader or a power-hungry bully? Should Cole have revealed he was sheriff sooner, or was letting her unravel part of the justice? Have you ever faced an HOA tyrant like this? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more wild tales. Where are you reading from, and what's the pettiest neighbor fight you've seen?